So good morning. Welcome. My name is Mandy Gagliardi, and I'd like to thank you for taking time out of your day today to come and learn a little bit more about file management in OneDrive. Welcome to my office. Today, we are going to kind of build on and I kind of hope everybody can hear me and see me okay, but what we went over in the first webinar, which was just a very basic, this is Microsoft OneDrive. This is how you navigate, and these are the basic concepts. Some people were able to jump off from that and get going, and others need a little more guidance. So that's what we're here for. We're going to show you all the different things that Microsoft OneDrive can do. We're going to talk about the web interface, the client, how to upload files and folders into both of those. We're going to talk about file management. And when we talk about that, we're talking about renaming your files, deleting files, moving and copying files. And we'll also take a look at versions, where you can find the versions inside OneDrive. And then we're also going to talk about how OneDrive interacts with the Microsoft Office 365 products. We'll be focusing on Microsoft Word just due to time constraints, but it's going to work the same for Excel, it's going to work for PowerPoint, but it needs to be a Microsoft Office 365 product. The point is we'll be able to work in an item inside Microsoft Word and save it right back to the OneDrive interface, or you can start in Microsoft OneDrive and open the document through OneDrive and edit it through that in Microsoft Word. So you get to see how it all works. So let's go ahead and get started on that. There's my webinars. All right. Before we move into the actual content, just to reinforce some of the content we covered in the first webinar, I'd like to remind you that we do have the new Administrative Resource Center, commonly called the ARC. The URL you can see at the top of my window. It's admin.resources.osu.edu. I'm specifically on the OneDrive for Business page. This is where you can go to get any help. Now, I've tried to make this page as generic as possible because there are multiple tenants for different employees across the university and medical center. So everything here is pretty generic. However, you will find that there is documentation in there specific to the med center. So keep that in mind as you're going through the material. It might not pertain to you, but some of them will be important. Just example, getting started for OneDrive for Business, OSU specific guidance, which account should I use to log in? That's an important one for lots of people across campus. And then we also have one for sharing guidance. This isn't how to share, but this is who can I share with? What is the guidance that has been provided by the university as to how we should be doing things? So there's a lot of great features in here. Don't forget it exists. All right, so we're going to start with the client, not the web client, but we're going to start with the client. I use this to quickly upload files or to get access to files. It's just like using my computer in Microsoft Windows. So when you open up your File Explorer, in the navigation panel on the left-hand side, just like we had for Box, there's one now that says OneDrive, and it will have your tenant to the right of it, the name of your tenant. I'm part of The Ohio State University, so that's why mine says The Ohio State University. If you are part of a different tenant, then it could say something different. Underneath that, you will see all of the folders that have been created in your Microsoft OneDrive. Now, I emptied my OneDrive folder, so there wasn't a lot of other things that could possibly overwhelm people that are watching me. Most people's folders aren't going to look like this, though. I have one folder in here called Microsoft Team Chat Files. That's a default folder created by OneDrive. That's not one you create, but it holds any files that have been shared through a chat session in Microsoft Teams. Now, I'm not talking about within a team. I'm just talking about when you talk one-on-one with somebody. And then I have a folder in there called Public Speaking 2020. That's the class I'm taking. And I have a file in there, File Management in OneDrive for Business. So I'm just going to show you really quick how to upload a file. So uploading a file. Here I have a PDF, and I've decided it needs to be in my main OneDrive folder. I'm going to click and hold, and I'm going to drag it. It has been moved to OneDrive. Simple. Let's upload a folder. Here's a folder that I have. It's random. I'm just grabbing anything, and I'm going to click and drag, and it has been uploaded. Now, when you're in the client like this, sometimes it's hard to see what's been going on. I want to draw your attention to the lower right-hand corner of my screen. This is called your system tray. This is where your clock is located, your date and time, volume, things like that. But also, you're going to see little icons that represent different pieces of software that are running on your computer. And the blue cloud is OneDrive. This is the OneDrive system tray icon. And when you click on it, it will tell you what is going on in your OneDrive account. So you can see that I have uploaded content. You can see that the Living Dead doll description is going into the folder Fallen Sky Order. And you can see that the PDF I uploaded is going right to my main folder, OneDrive, The Ohio State University. You can open folders from here. You can view online, which means it's going to move you to the web interface, which is what we're going to do here in just a few moments. And then you can get into help and setting. A lot of people don't realize that that is in the system trace. That's why I wanted to point it out to people. But this is the basics of your client interface. I do this for fast file management. If I am sharing files, if I am versioning files, if I am doing anything other than moving, copying, or deleting files, I use the web interface because it has more to it. For me, everybody works differently. So let's take a look at going into the web interface. Everybody should know how to log in because we ask that everybody knows how to do that before they get in here. Hopefully I'm still logged in. I'm going to click to go to OneDrive, but I think it's already open in the background. Boom, there it is. All right. I'm going to refresh to make certain that I don't have to log in again. All right, when you walk into the OneDrive web interface. Oh, by the way, if you guys have any questions, I'm so sorry. I'm going to tell you, put them in the Q&A. I've allowed everybody to see each other's questions, so you can see what questions other people are asking. You can upvote and you can comment on them. But we ask that they get put in the Q&A because I can use that to help build our FAQs later. Thank you. All right, so back in the web interface. When you log in, your navigation is all on the left-hand side of the screen, following the same pattern as all of the other Office 365 web products. You have My Files, which is your default view. This is where I can see all of the folders and files that exist in my OneDrive. Under Recent, we can see files that you have recently accessed or have been recently shared with you. Under Shared, these are all of the files that have been shared out. Remember, OneDrive is not just collaboration. I know when we promoted Box at first, this is collaboration, not storage. This is your storage and collaboration. Putting things in your files folder or My Files folder doesn't mean it's going to be shared. You have to specifically share it. And then you have your recycle bin. Anything placed into the recycle bin will stay here for, I believe it's 93 days. Random number, I know. But after 93 days, it will disappear and you can't get it back. All right, underneath that, you have something called shared libraries. The naming might seem a little bit weird. Just think of them as your team's folders. That's what they are. Every team that you are a part of that has content uploaded to it will appear here under shared libraries. So you can see I've got one team called Team for Webinars. That is a team that I created that's absolutely empty. It's just for me to play with webinars. And then there's others. There's one in there, the Administrative Resource Center, which was a team that we utilized during the creation and deployment of the Administrative Resource Center. And then we got one for Marcom. I've got one for training. The whole point is any team you're part of will be listed here on the left-hand side. So if I go into Teams for Webinars, this would be any content that has been uploaded to that team. But I'm looking at it through OneDrive. Okay, I'm going to go back to My Files. Okay. Let's upload something. Okay. Now, of course, we saw in the web interface, you can click and drag. Well, I can do that. I'm sorry, the client, we can click and drag, and I can do that here in the web interface. You just need a smaller window. Then I've gone ahead and I've uploaded it. All right, let's bring over this folder. All right, and it has uploaded. I can see the status of uploading in the upper right-hand corner. I guess that's a pretty big folder that I have there. It's uploading 92 different items. And again, I can watch the progress in the system tray. Now that's using the click and drag method, but you have probably noticed that there is an upload button at the top. Some people prefer using the actual interface to navigate, and that's fine. If you click on the upload button, there is files and folder. If I click on files, opens up my file navigator, I can select a file and then I can upload it. Same thing with a folder. Opens up my file explorer, I select the folder, and then it will upload. When you move save files in OneDrive, are they automatically private and then you have to do something separate to share? Yes. Any file that you place into OneDrive is yours and only yours. If you want other people to have access, you are going to specifically have to share it with them. Now, that's how OneDrive works. Alternatively, if you upload the file to a team folder, which is not OneDrive, but it's inside Teams, then anyone in that team automatically has access to it. I want that to be clear. There's a difference between uploading something to the My Files folder in OneDrive and uploading something to a team in Microsoft Teams. Even though we can see both in OneDrive, there is a difference when it comes to that. So I hope that answered your question, Anya. Okay, I'm getting a lot of questions about things being uploaded in the web versus going in through the client, and sometimes people have trouble accessing those files. I understand it's frustrating. That's also one reason why I use the web more often. I'm a slow person, and it takes time for things to show up, and sometimes things don't show up properly. If you're running into that, I can't help you here. That's a troubleshooting issue that you're going to have to talk to your IT local support about to get things working. I don't know what could be causing it. There are too many factors that go into that in order for me to troubleshoot during the webinar. So all of those questions, I would bring them to your local IT. What is the difference between OneDrive and SharePoint? Nothing. SharePoint is what runs everything in the background. You don't have to worry about it as an average user. There are going to be some people that want to go into more advanced concepts. That might be something that they get into. But remember, OneDrive uses SharePoint in the back end. So you might see that in the URL. I know a number of people have seen it when they go into more advanced sharing concepts. So you don't have to worry about it. But yes, it uses it in the background. What do you do if a folder in the desktop client is not showing up in the shared libraries in the web? Again, that goes with things not updating properly. Get your IT support involved, because that is not how it is supposed to function. That means something might be going on. We have information on data security and what is allowed to be stored and what is not allowed to be stored in the ARC. There's a lot of different things in there, so I would go through and look at one of those job aids for the people that are asking about what kind of data can be stored in there. All right, so we have taken a look at uploading files and folders in both the web client and in the desktop client. And I've shown you how to see the progress of that, but now we want to go in and we want to actually start working. Okay, so the first thing that I've been asked multiple times, how do I rename a document? Well, when you hover over a document in Microsoft OneDrive, you'll notice it becomes highlighted with a gray background, darker gray background. To the right of that, you have buttons that will appear. The first one, we'll get to this one. This is your sharing button, but I want you to go to the next one, which is the ellipse upside down, ... which is going to open up an action menu. And these are actions that you can perform on the file or the folder that is currently selected. So I have one here called effective term. I have no idea what's in there. It's probably some documentation that was created. But from here, you can open the file. You can preview it here in the web. You can share the file out, copy a link to the file, manage the access of different people you have listed as having access. You can download the file, which will take a copy and bring it down to your local computer. You can delete the file, which will remove it and put it in your recycle bin for, again, 93 days. You can move it to a different location, which is what we're going to do here in a moment. And there's also copy to another location. And there's rename. Let's go down to rename. You type in your new name. Effective term. And then you'll see the name updates. Now, in theory, any changes I make here should come over here. It might take a little bit of time to refresh. We'll check it again here in a few minutes. I've talked to Jason about this a number of times, and it's a big thing he keeps telling me is be patient. You're talking about going over the internet, and there's so many different things that can go wrong. So we'll check that again here in a moment. All right, let's take a look at renaming a folder. Same process. I only have my final left, so it's done. Renaming the folder. All right, let's go ahead and move this file. I'm going to move this file, the new effective term file, into my public speaking old folder. So to do that, again, we're going to go to the button. We're going to go to move to, and then you have to choose your destination. I said my OneDrive, and I said I want to move it to public speaking. I also have the option for new folder, if you noticed. And I could pick a subfolder. I'm not going to pick a subfolder. I'm just going to move it right here. And it's been moved. I'm going to check the client again. Oh, good. New effective term showed up. Now it'll only take a little while for it to move. All right. Oh, and moving a copy. All right, go to the menu, copy to, and where will I put this one? Oh, we'll put it in the folder for webinar sessions. That's where I should have been putting everything. And notice when I get here, I have the option for copy here. File management in OneDrive has stayed, but there's file management for OneDrive in the folder too, because I moved to copy. All right, so I focused on renaming, moving, and copying in the web interface. I do want to just remind you that the client is very similar, but it works just like Microsoft Windows. Right-click, menu, rename, move, and copy. Okay. Let's take a look at some more questions. I keep forgetting I'm not used to teaching in webinar. Okay. What else have we got? Thank you, Brian, for answering that question for me on the differences between OneDrive-The Ohio State University and The Ohio State University. It has to do personal drive and Teams. No, a date has not yet been set for mass transfer of OSU files to OneDrive. This is a big project. I'm certain everybody understands that. It's not going to be, we flip a switch and everybody's stuff is moved. We're meeting I shouldn't say we, I'm not on the team, but they're meeting department by department. They're deciding how everything is going to be moved. And when your department is ready, you will be moved over. Who that decision maker is in your department, I have no idea. I would reach out to somebody maybe higher up than you to see if they have even met with the team yet. I know that they're meeting as quickly as they can and really trying to make a lot of decisions. So there is not one date. And yes, everything in OneDrive, everything in Box, our team is going to migrate for you. We do ask that you get your files ready for moving. If you didn't get a chance to take the first webinar, I want to show you on the OneDrive for Business ARC page, we have 2 job aids very specific about getting you ready. Buckeye Box, preparing your individual files for migration. These are things that you can take, steps you can take ahead of time to get yourself ready for the migration. And this cleanup and migration document, this is for record, what do they call it? My brain is blanking. Retention, that's the word, record retention. So this is the management guide. So we have those in there. No, we don't ask you to move them yourself, but we are asking that you prepare for the move. Caitlin Black asked if she manually moves content herself, will the migration then done by IT override what you've already moved? I can't answer that for you. Actually, I'm going to say no. Here's what I've been told the end result of the project will be, is once you're migrated, everything that has been moved over for you is going to be in one folder in OneDrive. I don't know what the exact name of the folder is going to be, but it'll be something along the lines of box migration data, box migration content, something along those lines. That's why it's so important that I spend time showing you how to move, copy, and rename files, because they're going to be in one folder and you're going to be responsible for putting them where you want them to go. So I hope that answers your question. Should you wait for IT to move this over, or can you move yourself? That's totally up to you. Like I said, whatever they move over is going to be in one folder. It shouldn't mess with anything you've already got in there. No, department, that's anonymous. The question is it just box items that are being transferred, or are department network drives being transferred as well? No, this is only a box migration project. We're not doing anything with your network drives that I know of at this point in time. Corey Peterson, I hope I said your last name right, asked if we want to create a new team and make use of folders and files that already exist in OneDrive. It seems like moving the files to the teams would be preferable to copying the files to team. Otherwise, you would have 2 independent copies of each file and would need to be careful about which copy we're changing. Is that correct? Yeah, that's 100% correct. Because it's actually 2 separate locations. What's being put in Teams is in Teams. What's being put in OneDrive is in OneDrive. If you take something from OneDrive and move it into Teams, it's a copy. And that's a good thing. I know that seems weird, but then you always have that backup. You have that original file before anybody has made any changes to it inside of Microsoft Teams. Because the moment it gets put in Teams, every person with access to that team has access to that file. And our rule of thumb is least amount of access necessary. Should we use OneDrive instead of documents? I'm not quite certain I understand that question. Are you talking about the My Documents folder on your computer? If that's what you're talking about, then yeah, that would be a better place to put your content, is in OneDrive. Okay, I got through a lot of them, not all of them, but keep asking them. You guys are asking great questions. Close that. And next, okay. So this is my favorite. Okay. You might have noticed in the upper left-hand corner of the web interface, there's a button labeled New. It's a menu. If you click on it, you're going to get a menu option of different things that you can create new inside Microsoft OneDrive. You can create a new folder. This is going to be great for while you're building your folder structure. And your folder structure is yours. I can't tell you how you have to organize your content. I can just tell you where you can organize it. So organize it in My Files and create as many folders as necessary for you to be organized. But you'll also see we have Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, and Forms for Excel, and then also a new link. We're going to focus on Word documents. So if I click Word document, you're going to see another tab open. And this is the web version of Microsoft Word. Eventually, there we go. Any programmer knows that's what the first thing you learn how to program. Hello, world. So I've created my document. Everything I know how to do in Microsoft Word, I can do here. It's automatically saved back to OneDrive. You can see that in the upper left-hand corner. If I click on Document Saved, I can change the name. Test for webinar. And you'll see that the default location is the folder that I was in when I said new. So it went to folder for a webinar. All right, let's take a look at my document file management in OneDrive. I'm going to click on the name, and this will actually open up the file in the web version of Word. Still slow. And this looks just like the screen that we saw before. I'm going to make some changes to this document. Let's make this bold and italicized just for fun. All right, I got a page break in there. Oh, that should have a hyphen. All right. Just making some crazy changes. All right. And supposedly it's been saved. All right, some people really like working in the web interface. My daughter is a junior in high school, but she's taking college classes at Ohio State, and she thinks the web interface is the coolest thing ever invented. I prefer to work in the desktop app. I'm old. So up at the top, there's a button here that says Open in Desktop App, and then you also have your mode that you're in right now. This controls the menus that you see. Right now I'm in editing. There's also reviewing and viewing. This is great for tracking all of your changes that are being made. So I'm in edit mode, but I'm going to open in the desktop app. And this will take just a moment. Come on. It didn't want to open Word, but it did open on the other screen. Here it is. File management in OneDrive for Business. You can see the changes that I made. My title here is bold and italicized. Word document is bold, and right hand is now fixed. I'm going to make some more changes. Let's increase this font size. Let's go ahead and let's make this a numbered list just because that's fun. All right, so I just made a bunch of different changes. Autosave is turned on by default. Any changes I make should be sent right back. I can always click my little floppy disk icon if I want to force a save. Okay, so here's my file management in OneDrive for Business folder file. Again, now when I open it through the web interface, you can see the changes that I made in the desktop app in the one that I see in the web interface. Why did I make all those changes? Well, I made all of those changes because, oh, my computer clock is different than my cell phone. Ooh. If I go over, I apologize. My computer clock says it's only 11:02. I'll figure that out. But what I want to show you here is versioning. Versioning. Okay, so every time you make changes into a Microsoft Office product, it keeps track of your different versions. Now with Microsoft OneDrive, we have versioning in there and versioning in the Word app or PowerPoint app or whatever program you're using as well. And you can get to the versions from both places. I'm going to open this back up in the desktop app just because that is where I prefer to work. Like I said, I'm old. And in the file menu, Under Info, you have your version history. Okay, you'll see that I must have uploaded that on the 20th at 11:25, and then at 11:06, and then at 11:08. And I can open previous versions from here. Now that's versioning in Microsoft Word. You can also get access to your versions here. Okay. So if I go back to that action menu for the file that I was looking at earlier, at the bottom of the menu is the version history button. And when I select that, look, the same versions that you saw inside Microsoft Word. And I know that's a question that I've gotten quite a bit. How does versioning work? If you want to get to a different version here, I could click on my More button, and I can restore, or I can open it, or I can delete the version. That's a question I got a lot more than I ever expected. How can I delete a version of a document? I can only imagine why. Right. Not that this is a Microsoft Word class, but you also have to know how to go the opposite direction. So far, we've been in OneDrive, and I've been working in OneDrive and going to Microsoft Word. I don't think most people work that way, though. If you are working on a document, you typically open your document, start your document, and then you save your document. So I'm going to create a brand new, fresh document, not put in OneDrive, nothing. Let me close this one. And we're going to create a brand new blank document. This is how I work every day. Okay. Now, right now, this exists in a temporary space on my computer. It's actually called a temp folder. It doesn't exist anywhere solid. It has not been saved anywhere. When I click my Save button, I will get my Save This File window, and you have to choose your location. Mine defaults to OneDrive, The Ohio State University. So that means anything I save is going to go right back to my files in OneDrive. You can click on Choose Location and open it up. So you could go somewhere else if you wanted to. That's your local storage. But the whole point here is for us to put it in OneDrive. And it's saved. Okay. And I can type version 2, and I'll save again. Version 3, I'll save again. All right. Closed. Oh, there's that other document I created a while ago. Just took a really long time to update. I'm sorry. It did work. But here's my hello. Well, I did hello and then hello world. So which one's mine? I shouldn't have given them the same name. Well, I can look and see. No, this is the one I just did. All right, in the web interface, this is how you can get to versions if you're in Microsoft Word's web interface. Again, upper left-hand corner, just like the desktop app. Then you go to Info, Version History. I like this because I can actually see the track to changes without turning on track to changes. Oops. Go away bar. It keeps popping right down into my screen. Okay. So now I have this Hello World document I just created, and I think it's fantastic, but I need Teresa Gosser, who's my manager, to review it, to add her content, whatever I want to do. So here's where we're going to start sharing. I want you to remember there's a difference between sharing from OneDrive and putting it in a team. I think I've said it a million times, so if you're annoyed, I apologize. I just really want to make certain everybody understands that we can share from OneDrive, but you can also share in Teams. All right, so let's ask Teresa Gosser to help me out with this document. Again, we're going to go to that action menu, and I can either share the document or I can copy the link and send just the link of the document to her. The big difference is by choosing share, I can determine who exactly has access, and I can determine what level of access that they have. With the link, it's very well possible that just anybody that authenticates onto our system could have access to the file. Sometimes that's extremely necessary. You want to distribute it, but you want to make certain that only authorized people can see it. That's a great way of sharing content, but making certain they're part of the university or whatever tenant you're on. I'm going to do share though. Okay, and then I specify who. I'm typing in her last name. Okay, and send. That is how you share to one person through OneDrive. Now, once I have shared it out, all the way on the right-hand side here, you will see under the sharing column, it says it's shared. The rest of mine will say private, yeah, because I haven't shared anything else out. This is also a link. If I click on this, it will allow me to see the Manage Access panel that will open on the right-hand side of the screen, and I can see who has access. I kind of left mine at all the default settings. Yes, I sent it to Teresa Gosser, but it's really anybody that has the link and that can authenticate on the network, because that was what I had up at the top. Teresa Gosser has it. She's the specific person. If she gave that link to someone else, it wouldn't work for them because they can't authenticate as Teresa Gosser. I can also provide direct access, which means she can just log right in and see it. And I'm going to elevate her. Oh, no, the default. That's demote her. That's the right word. She can only be. Okay, and I can also stop sharing. I gave access and I took it away. I will tell you, as somebody that does do one-on-one sharing more often than anywhere else in OneDrive, any type of other sharing, I mean, it's slow. It takes a while for the Manage Access panel to update to show that you have provided access to someone. Sometimes I even have to close the panel and reopen it. Just keep that in mind. All right, I'm pulling up some more questions. Can we share with people outside of OSU? It's an anonymous question. We actually have a lot of information on the ARC about who you can and cannot share with, but I will briefly discuss this. It's only OSU specific because Medical Center has different rules that are in place right now. Any answer I give you, I need you to realize is for OSU. The answer is yes. You can share with anyone that uses Microsoft OneDrive and Teams. We do not have anonymous access right now in OneDrive. And I don't know when that will change, but they have to be able to authenticate somehow. So it's either through our network because they're part of us, or they authenticate through their own system. Can you share documents with OSU MC individuals if on the university side and vice versa? Yes, actually, you can share between the Med Center and the university. We also have a number of documents on the ARC. One very specific, how do I share with Med Center employees? So you can see that on there.
Hey, Mandy, it's Teresa. I just wanted to reiterate what you said, that it takes some time. So when you shared that file with me, it took a couple of minutes for that email to come through. So just for people to remember that it's not going to be an immediate thing necessarily. So.
Thank you. Yeah, it's the hardest part to get used to for me, is like everything's not instantaneous, but I also know the system is new and being built up, and we're going to get better. We get better every time.
You might have said this too, but I did get an email notification. So when you share something, that person will get an email notification that the file's been shared with them, and they can open it from there as well.
Thank you. Kristen, with Box, you can get a link and share it with everyone, even if they do not have a box and are not part of the OSU system. No, that's the anonymous linking that I was talking about before. Security has said no. I know that the project team is working diligently to either get anonymous linking approved or to have a different option. This is extremely critical for the university. I can't speak for the Med Center, but we rely very heavily on anonymous linking, as it's called. That's that link that anybody can access. So send your requests into the project team email. That's what they're using to show security that this is something we really need. So send those emails, send them, and as soon as I know what is going to happen with anonymous linking, we will get that information out to you ASAP. I know it is critical for everyone. Okay, so let's get into these shared libraries before everybody decides they have to run away on me. Okay, so under shared libraries, this is a team that I created specifically for these webinars. So I can play in here and no one's going to get mad at me. Uploading files here, moving files here, renaming files, everything we learned about OneDrive working in My Files folder works here too. You can create folders in here. But remember, anything that is done in here is shared with everyone that is part of that team. So I'm going to go ahead and upload a file here. It was a good picture. I liked that picture. I had to say that I will never complain about a heavy vacuum again. All right, let me show you the picture. That's a heavy vacuum. Yay, so my vacuum is in there. And now this is Team for Webinars in Microsoft Teams. We're not going to play around here in here. I just wanted to show you that the file that I uploaded, oh, it's not showing up yet. Again, this is, it's slow. But it will show up here. All right, anyway, from in here, like I said, any changes that you make will carry over to everybody in the team. Somebody brought up the question before, if I take it from my files and I put it in the team, does that mean I have two separate copies? Yes, you do. Like I said, I like that though, because I consider my files folder as my backup, and that's where all of my original files stay. And I always put a copy into the team. So I have that backup, but that's how I choose how to work. I get some questions in the Q&A about automation and things like that. That is not something that we will cover today. Today is just about the basics of getting in, being able to move, copy, and restore your files, versioning, and getting you ready for that migration. So you guys can get in there and, hit the ground running when your migration is complete. We want you to be as successful as humanly possible with this migration. So that's why we keep doing all of these, and we will do more. And what else? Like I said, anything you learned in the My Files folder works in the shared libraries. I tend to work inside Microsoft Teams when I'm working with the shared libraries. Some of you have noticed that there is a delay in update, as we talked about, and that's why they prefer to work directly in Microsoft Teams, so I don't blame them. Anything that I put in through the web interface should show up in the desktop client. Anything that I put in the desktop client will show up in the web interface. There's just a delay. Sometimes it'll be 10 seconds. Sometimes it might be 5 to 10 minutes. I can't tell you what the delay will be, but sometimes there's a delay. If you look at my desktop client right now, you'll see that all of the work that I did in OneDrive has updated here, so we can't see it. It just took a long time for everything to move over. Yes, channels in a team can be used to restrict access to a particular team member's teams. We will go over all of that in the Teams webinar. This is just for OneDrive right now. Sarah, you asked about who to email to get anonymous sharing. So box migration project at osu.edu. Send your use cases there. Jason Pollock will be very thankful. Okay, well, we are out of time. We did get you that email address, so I'm thankful for that. I hope that when you're done here today, you at least feel more comfortable working in the interface. You know how to move, copy, open, upload, delete, and version documents, and that you understand that Teams and OneDrive are separate. They're two different entities. And that just because something is in my files, it's not shared. You still have to share it out. And anything you put in a team is shared with members of the team. I thank you very much for taking time out of your day, and I hope you feel a little more comfortable with OneDrive. Have a great day.